Okay, I think we're ready to start. Good afternoon. My name is Bruce White. I'm the Dean of the College, and this is the Dean's Distinguished Seminar Series. This is the third in our series this year, and it's my pleasure today to introduce Prith Banerjee. And I'll say a few things about him, and you'll see he's a very impressive individual. He's currently the Senior Vice President of Research at HP, Director of HP Labs. And it's the company's central organization that oversees technical strategies for the company and has 7 worldwide locations. In 2007, HP convinced Dr. Banerjee to leave his deanship at the University of Illinois in Chicago. And these days I can understand that, the way the budgets are going. But then it was a little better, so that was a good move. Prior to that, he was the Walter P. Murphy Professor and Chair of Electrical Engineering at Northwestern University, and also the Director of the Center for Parallel and Distributed Computing. Prith was also the Director of Computational Science and Engineering Program and Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. He is also the founder and chairman and chief scientist of Binachip Incorporated, and has sold that company in 2006. I don't know if you're still associated with it or not.
So there's, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's not important.
We'll move on. Prith's research areas are computer-aided design, parallel computing, and compilers. He's the author of more than 300 research papers in these areas, and also a book entitled Parallel Algorithms for VLSI CAD, for CAD. He's a fellow of the American Association of the Advancement of Science, ACM, and IEEE. He's the 1996 recipient of the American Society of Engineering Education Tierman Award and the 1987 National Science Foundation Young Presidential Investigator Award winner. He serves on the technical advisory, or previously did, on many companies. He received his bachelor's degree from the Indian Institute of Technology, his MS and PhD degrees from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. More recently, the publication Fast Company identified Prith as one of the 100 most creative people in business, describing his job where he looks into a crystal ball determining the future technology for the $150 million HP laboratories that he now runs, coming up with such interesting technical advances as flexible paper display screens and cloud print, which will allow printing from a cell phone. Today he's going to talk to us about the future of research directions at HP Labs. Please join me in welcoming Prith Banerjee.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and thanks to the faculty members of CS and EC for inviting me here. Since I have spent about 20 plus years in academia, it's always fun to come back and visit universities. And I will try to share with you some of the exciting research going on in HP Labs. As was mentioned by Bruce, HP Labs is the central research arm for Hewlett-Packard. To give you some context, HP today is one of the largest IT companies in the world with revenues of about $115 billion. HP invests about $3 billion each year on research and development. HP overall has 300,000 plus employees, where 30,000 of these employees are R&D engineers. So there's a lot of research that happens in research that results in the innovations in the 3 divisions that HP has. We have an imaging and printing group that makes all the printers, copiers, hopefully use inkjet printers and laserjet printers at UC Davis. There's about 50 million printers that come out that HP sells to our customers every year. And there is R&D that happens for those printers, copiers, and scanners. There's a second, and that is a $26 billion business. There is a second business group called Personal Systems Group, which sells all the PCs, workstations, laptops, and so on. There's 65 million PCs sold every year. And there's a lot of R&D that happens there. It's a $40 billion business. And then there's a third business called Enterprise Business, which has 3 subdivisions: the Enterprise Server, Storage, Networking, HP Software, and Services. It's a $68 billion business, and a lot of smart R&D engineers work there as well. HP Labs is a microcosm of that R&D enterprise. We are only 500 researchers, but we have the most fun job. I have the dream job, I tell people. These 500 researchers have the charter to look at the future of where HP should be headed, right? 5, 10, 15 years into the future. And so I will try to share with you what we do at HP Labs. But before I do, I want to tell you that HP today is a global organization, 300,000 employees. HP Labs is also a global organization. We have researchers in Palo Alto, which is our major site. More than half the researchers are in Palo Alto. We have significant presence in Bristol, England, but we also have labs in Bangalore, Beijing, St. Petersburg, Russia, Haifa, Israel, and last week we opened up a lab in Singapore. And we don't take these, just we don't open up labs willy-nilly. I mean, we are very selective in where we open up our labs. And, but these group of 500 researchers worldwide are involved in the most exciting research opportunities. And I want to share those with you. But before I do that, I want to share with you kind of an interesting transformation of HP Labs that I was part of in the last 3 years. And being in academia, some of you will maybe relate to this, the challenges. So these 500 research scientists at HP Labs, you can think of them as 500 of the sort of brightest engineering professors in a huge college of engineering. And they were involved in kind of point solutions, very interesting research solutions on their own projects. So there's a whole bunch of small projects that were going on at HP Labs. And the challenge that we all embarked on jointly was, how can we take the collective minds of these 500 people and get them focused on about 20 very high impact research projects. These are collaborative projects where we'll work together and try to solve some of the most interesting, difficult problems the customers will face in the next decade. And there were 2 sort of twin objectives that I gave the team. One, in whatever you do, pick a truly aspirational technical problem that the world doesn't know how to solve, and let's do it an order of magnitude better than what's out there, because doing an incremental thing is not good enough, right? Individuals can do incremental things, but as large teams, let's try to solve something really, really fantastic together. And the twin objective was, if this whatever widget that you build is successful technically, let's work on something that will have significant business value for HP. So a company the size of HP with $100 billion, significant business impact means at least $1 billion impact or more. So what I'm going to share with you is these 21 big bet research topics around 8 themes. The 8 themes are shown there, but I will not go through these things because I'm going to actually walk you through these 8 themes. But I want to, the reason I'm actually visiting many universities, right? And I'm on a kind of a mission to share with all of you the next generation of smart sort of scientists and engineers coming out, the graduate students, right? What HP Labs, after a lot of thought process, has identified as very interesting problems. And as part of our open innovation program, which I will hopefully come to at the end of my presentation, we are actually partnering with universities to work with us on these 20 big bets. So the story at HP Labs is about focus, focus, focus. People working together on some specific things, some very hard things, and we are soliciting partnerships with universities. And at a given time, we work with about 60 university projects at a time. So each big bet project, there are about 3 university partners. So those of you in the audience, as you see the presentation, try to latch on to, I think my research relates to that, right? And that is the purpose of my visit. I will not be able to cover all of these in any great detail. You can just look at a map. 2 minutes per, it does not do justice to these projects that are really, really challenging. So I will try to highlight a few and hopefully share the excitement of the projects with you. So the first theme of research is on digital commercial print. And within that, we have 2 big bet projects, one on printing processes, the other on commercial print automation. But let me explain the big problem out there. So commercial print in this is this area of printing for magazines, newspapers, marketing collateral, and so on. So the San Francisco Chronicle that you hopefully read today, or the New York Times that you read, every page of the New York Times was the same for you and for you and for me. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could have a custom version of New York Times just for me, Prith? New York Times publishes results on football and baseball. I don't care about football, baseball. I want to read about cricket. And New York Times does not report on cricket. So I don't read New York Times. So today, these newspapers and magazines are printed on what are called offset or analog printers. These are printers that go blazing fast, 4,000 pages per minute, instead of these inkjet printers that you have in your office, 16 pages per minute and 32 pages per minute. So on these inkjet printers, you could do everything custom. Whatever you want on your thing, we can print for you. But it is going to print at 32 pages per minute. So it cannot compete with these large newspapers, things that need to print things between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. before the delivery trucks hit out, right? So for this, you need to be able to print things. And let me now talk about one of these projects. You need a platform that instead of printing, digital printers today can print maybe 100 pages per minute. But you need to go at 4,000 pages per minute, really, really fast, where every page is different using digital technology. Oh, and by the way, these pages have to be vibrant color. When you look at Newsweek magazine, that color of red on the red Ferrari is a fantastic color of red. And if you print it on your inkjet printer, it's a lousy red. That's not what will excite people. So you need to have the color, the same quality as analog printers, as fast as analog printers, and the low cost per page is analog printers. So you need whole new ways of printing. And today, we know how to print with, say, inkjet printers where we spray ink onto paper. And when you are spraying ink onto paper and it's getting 16 pages per minute, you have to dry that ink. But if instead of 16 pages per minute, you are yanking it at 1,000 pages per minute, the ink that you are trying to spray on will just smudge, right? So you have to come up with ink that sticks on the paper as soon as you spray on it, right? Except my friends in Europe say, oh, we are environmentalists. We need to de-ink the paper, we need to recycle. And these digital printers, because they stick the ink so fast, it's not good for the environment. So we want you to de-ink the paper easily. Are you kidding? You want me to stick the ink fast, and you want to de-ink? Those are the challenges, right? So these are contradictory things that our chemists and physicists have to solve. And it's a printing platform that we are developing. It's a whole new technology called off-jet printing, combination of offset printing and inkjet that will hopefully revolutionize the world. There are some very fundamental physics and chemistry things that are going on. And oh, by the way, this is a $780 billion industry. I mean, HP can make a ton of money if you're successful. Now, it's not enough to just do the print platform, right? Now you have to drive. If you are serious about every page is different, right? Prith wants his cricket, she wants, God knows, skiing, and so on. So now you have to have this content feeding into the printer. So the other big bet project is on commercial print automation. So you may not know this, but when a print job gets submitted, there's a lot of stuff that happens before the printing and after the printing. It's called pre-press, post-press, and so on. So a very simple example, you submit a PostScript file to a printer, there's a thing called raster image processing, ripping, that has to happen. So you submit a large job, 200-page job, you do this ripping, that's why you submit the job, and the printer just sleeps and sleeps and boom, and then it starts printing 16 pages per minute, right? But if you're doing if all the pages are the same, then you can do the ripping over 5 hours, and then you print everything in next 10 hours. But if every page is different, the ripping has to happen for every page. Now you need major computational resources to be able to rip at the speed of 4,000 pages per minute. So within that, we are actually using GPUs, and the reason I'm mentioning is I know there's a collaboration going on with UC's Davis on this topic, but it is in the context of this big thing that we are trying to solve. We are using these GPU processors to do this ripping extremely fast. Another thing that you have to do, when you have this picture of the red Ferrari from Newsweek, in this print service providers, a human actually goes in and says, is this red the good red? Let's print 1,000 pages. This is good, not good. Let's increase the red a little bit more, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, after 1,000 pages, they get the right red. And then they print those 1,000,000 copies. Well, if you're doing every page is different, you cannot have a human going at 1,000, 10,000 pages per minute and just looking at the color, right? You just cannot do this. So you have to do it all automatically. So this commercial print automation requires a lot of new workflows and complete automation. And actually, we are looking at sort of using things from the electronic design automation world to make it completely automated. So the combination of these two projects hopefully will make HP $780 billion. Fortunately, after 3 years, I'll quit HP, so nobody will follow. Don't tell my CEO I said this. The next one is on content transformation. And now this is very relevant to the sort of young people in the audience. Many of us, when we grew up, the way we exchange information was on a piece of paper. I wrote a letter to you, you read the letter, you wrote back to me, you typed up a memo, I typed up a memo, and so on. Nowadays, the digital generation is doing everything electronically, digitally. So there are people who say, everything is going to be digital. That's not true. There will be information that part of it will be digital, part of it will be physical, and you need to allow a seamless transformation between the world of physical information to the digital information back to physical. So there are a couple of big bet projects here, and I need to speed up. I just wanted to share some of the excitement with you. One of the projects in this space is next generation displays. So the display that I have on this laptop is a glass-based emissive display. So there is some light that is being shown from the back so that you can see this. No, so I can see the screen pretty well in this room. I take it out in the California sun, I cannot read it because I'm now competing with the sun. Yet a piece of paper I can read inside, I go outside in the sun, I can read it well because it is reflective. It's taking care of the ambience and reading light, right? So now people have been worrying about, well, can we come up with reflective surfaces that can be updated? So on a piece of paper, you cannot change it, but I would, on an electronic reflective surface, I could change it. Yeah, Prith is talking about reflective. Amazon Kindle, just go and look at it. That uses reflective. Right. Amazon Kindle uses black and white reflective in glass. So now, here is the problem. On a particular piece of real estate, if you want to reflect, you put a mirror. And if you don't want to reflect, you turn off the mirror. So it's 1 and 0. So people know how to do reflective in black and white very well. How many of you love only black and white, but you would like to have color? Everyone likes color. I want this in color. So, yeah, we should be able to do this in color. We know how to do color television. We'll do this. So in color television, what happens is you have a particular piece of real estate, a pixel, and you have a red, green, and blue, RGB, all those funny things, right? Those red light, green light, blue light. And you're doing this, and that's how you see the color. So I will use a red mirror, a green mirror, and a blue mirror. Except now on a particular place, I can only put 1/3 the area as a red mirror, 1/3 green, 1/3 blue. So now what happens is, when I want red, I get 1/3 of the reflectance is coming out in red. I'm losing 2/3. So when I want red, I get dull red. Who wants dull red? No one. You want bright red. So in the emissive world, people kind of solve it. They say, oh, yeah, that's the same problem. You can say that's the same problem in emissive. They have a red, blue, green LED, except that in the red LED, you can do 3 times the power, make it 3 times as bright, 3 times as bright, 1/3 the area, I get red. Aha. So let's see. I will take this mirror, red mirror, and I want 3 times the light on this. God, can you please put 3 times the light? No, it doesn't work, right? So you cannot control the ambient light. So that is the problem. At HP Labs, we are working on cracking that problem, and we have some initial prototypes that does reflective color in plastic, so it can fold and flexible and all those kind of wonderful stuff. There are some transistors that are put on this. And you want to have updates at the range of video rates, right? So it's called Prith's ultimate nirvana display. That's the joke within HP Labs. But this is an extremely exciting kind of futuristic stuff, so I thought I would share with you. The third theme is that of immersive interaction. Now, there are 2 big bet projects here. The idea of the first one is that we are working on intuitive, rich user experiences. So we are trying to improve the way humans interact with technology. Now, when I talk to you, I am talking, I'm jumping, I'm looking at you, you're nodding at me, so I know there's sort of eye contact, so there's real communication going on. Except on the keyboard, when I use a computer, I use a keyboard. Who uses a keyboard to talk to people? Well, actually, we do through email, but that's besides the point, right? So it would be nice to have a very intuitive way of interacting with technology. Let me give you a very sort of simple example. If I point to the screen and I say, delete this and this, you knew what I meant. You wanted the big and the seamless to be deleted. But if I point at the screen and say, you have no clue what I meant. And if I say, delete this and this, you wouldn't know what I meant. So what is going on is the multimodal, the voice and the touch, the combination of these 2 means something to you. So now you can do the 5 senses that we have. We see, we touch, we smell, we hear, and so on. If you could combine those things in a very intuitive way, wonderful things can happen. Seamless collaboration is trying to bring in workers and researchers from anywhere in the world to do very interesting, immersive collaboration ways. Sort of, I don't know if you have heard of HP's Hello system or Cisco's telepresence system. It is really high-end teleconference, video conferencing. But it costs a bundle. I mean, you have to spend $100,000 on a dedicated conference room, fantastic, dedicated leased lines and so on. And the reason that works is you go into a Halo room. It's a conference room with fantastic furniture, 3 seats. On the other side are 3 really high-quality television screens. And you see the picture of the other person, bright, crisp. You can see all the pockmarks and the hair and everything. And the view that I see of you is different from the view I see of you from here. So it literally gives you the perspective, and it's fantastic. So that's really good, except that people can't afford $100,000 system. So we people, we use Skype. So the problem with Skype is when you are interacting with me on Skype, Prith looks like this, right? So there's jitters going on. Why? Because you are trying to send information through the internet, which is a shared, all these problems with protocols and so on. So the vision is, can you get to quality better than Hello with the price of Skype? Oh, yeah, I would like it. But to get to these things, there are some very interesting problems that you need to solve. And I will mention a few of them. You need to do very high-end audio-video capture. You need very high-end video transmission and rendering, and getting rid of sort of noise and so on. So if you walk into a room, when you have these big Christmas parties and you see Davis, right? 100 people in a room chatting each other and so on. So much noise going on. Yet, Prashant and I can sit and we can have a conversation. because I'm kind of watching you, and kind of the brain has a way to suppress the random noises and can figure out what is going on in that conversation. So we are trying to use similar techniques to see how we can remove the background clutter, the audio clutter and the video clutter, and focus on the real message. For example, in a Hello conference room, it's fantastic, everybody looks nice and so on, it's a nice background and so on. On Skype, if you're doing Skype with, say, a cell phone, and you're in an airport, there are people roaming around in the back, and it's just distracting. So what is going on? So if you can just focus on the real picture, right, and get rid of the clutter automatically, that will be really useful. So those are the kinds of things that we are working on. And we just came up with a technology called Skyroom, which is now available on all HP workstations to allow about 4 people to have a truly high-quality interaction using sort of even including 3D images and fantastic quality, but on sort of standard company networks. Information management is our 4th bet, and within that we have 2 big bet projects. One on taming the information explosion, the other is on live business intelligence. And essentially the problem is that the world is creating lots and lots of information. In fact, there are all kinds of statistics. One statistic says the amount of digital information is doubling every 18 months. Another one that says in the next 5 years, we will all collectively create more information than has existed in the history of the planet. So between beginning of the world to 2010, however information we have created, between 2010 and 2015, we'll create more information. So now how are you going to search for information and store the information and provide it as rapidly as you want, right? So there are 2 kinds of information. There's the world of structured information, which is databases, and people have figured out these large databases on CRM system, ERP systems. You want to search for employees aged between 35 and 42 of this thing, living in California. We do all these fork join operations in databases. We know how to search for it, and we'll give it to you very quickly. If it is information on the web, Google has taught us how to search for information on the web by these PageRank algorithms and those web link pointers and so on and so forth. The trouble is when you have information where partly it is structured, like in databases, partly it is unstructured within an enterprise, you have emails floating around, there are no web links to do PageRank algorithms on. So you have to build these semantic web links automatically and then enable you to do much better search. And again, so there is a very exciting work going on in this information management big bet. The other one is on what is called live business intelligence. So business intelligence today, as practiced by the Walmarts of the world, is they will look at, they have observed that people who buy Charmin bathroom tissue also buy Tide detergent. Yeah, makes sense. I don't know how it makes sense, but it makes sense. So they have figured that out, right? But those kind of, and therefore they say, oh, the people are buying more Charmin bathroom tissue, we should stock it up with more Tide. I'm just making up some examples, right? So the point is that these things, this business intelligence is done in an offline manner. At the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, people are trying to do all kinds of statistical correlation of, is this related with that? And if you can find a pattern, fantastic business outcomes will happen. The trouble is your business is running at the speed of business. Can you do business intelligence live as soon as a transaction happens? Can you do interesting things with it? So the problems there are massive scale. We have 6 billion people on Earth. Each of us is doing transactions, millions of transactions. As we do these transactions live, can you do the correlations in real time at massive scale and provide the real-time response to a company or a CIO to make good business decisions? So a realistic practical application of this is, so that, what is he talking about? Imagine that you are going to buy a 50-inch television, right? So in the morning, you wake up and you're having coffee and you go on to bestbuy.com and you look for all the televisions out there, Toshiba and Sony, and you do all kinds of research. Then you go to work, and you fake your boss, and you still go online, and you do this, the Hitachi and HP and whatever televisions. Then at 6 o'clock in the evening, you actually walk into the Best Buy store in Palo Alto. You walk into the Best Buy store with your cell phone. The cell phone has a GPS. the world, Big Brother knows you are Prith Banerjee, knows there's a correlation that has happened that Prith actually looked for televisions in the morning from his home, and he faked his CEO all day at HP. Wouldn't it be nice for the salesperson to know that Prith is interested in a 52-inch television and not anything else? Those are the kinds of things as sort of that could be enabled by live business intelligence. Don't tell Mark Hurd I look for television from my HP office. The fifth theme is that of analytics. So this is a field which is applying scientific and mathematical tools to drive better business decisions. Oftentimes in the world of business, people make decisions based on just gut feel. Oh, I have to sell more laptops in Russia. So my CEO, Mark Hurd, says, oh, we should do 30,000 marketing collateral in Russia. He doesn't, by the way, but suppose he said that, right? How is he doing it? Does it work? God knows. I don't know. It's just gut feel. So we should not run businesses with gut feels. We should run it by real mathematical principles. So to ground it in something concrete, the project on analytics for operations is trying to solve, say, one of the problems as follows. We have 300,000 employees at HP. 170,000 of them work for services. So in the services area, there's all kinds of contracts that we do. We sign a contract with Walmart. You know what? We will maintain all your things for you, or you need an Oracle programming upgrade. We'll custom do the thing for you, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So we are constantly, our services organization, they're writing requests for, sort of addressing requests for proposal. They're making all these contract proposals from Oracle programming in Russia to Java programming in India, and so on and so forth, right? And you don't know if you'll get the contract or not. But if you get it, you will need 500 Java programmers the next day. So one option is you hire a whole bunch of Java programmers, and a whole bunch of Oracle programmers, and a whole bunch of C programmers, and you keep them on the bench. And then the contract didn't come through, and then Mark Hurd is one unhappy man. Gosh, I'm losing money because these people are on the bench. So you become a very smart manager. You fire all the Oracle programmers, all the Java programmers, all the C programmers, and then you get the contract. Oh my God, I don't have any Oracle programmers. So then you hire a bunch of contractors to do the work, and the contractors charge twice the money and lose money, and Mark Hurd is even more upset. So this is trying to solve labor strategy using fundamental principles. When you have probabilistic, you don't really know whether you get the contract or not, but you're trying to drive labor strategy. This is actually being deployed in HP today to make HP more successful. And it's not about increasing revenue, but saving money. Another example is HP, this $115 billion company. We acquire a lot of stuff. We acquire disk drives from Seagate and Toshiba and so on. We buy displays from 5 places. We buy memories from Hynix and Samsung and Hitachi and so on. So when you're buying tons and tons of memory, you actually don't ask for a person to say, how much will it cost for a memory? Yeah? 20 cents? No. You use reverse auctions. So you have these people bid each other, right? I will sell you memory 6 months from now at 14 cents a byte, or so, and somebody will say, no, I'll do it for 13. So you set up these auction mechanisms, and imagine in an auction, a guy is saying 15, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 17, 18, 18, 18, right? And oh, you win. So the lowest bid gets it. So that's today was being done manually within HP for this $62 billion of transactions. So we put in automation. So it turns out that when you're doing auctions, there are all these parameters. So do you start at 15, 15, 15, 15, or do you start at 10? Do you go up to 15 to 16 to 70, or go up to 15 to 15.1 to 15.2? How many contractors do you allow? 5, 10, 20? There are tons and tons of parameters. So through this automation, we have come up with a tool that is assisting HP procurement, this $62 billion worth of stuff, to save billions of dollars. Significant savings to the company by just applying analytics for operations. And I could go on and on with the other things, and Dean is going to kick me out because he said I have till 5 o'clock. Next one is on cloud. So cloud is this interesting change in business model that is happening, where instead of enterprises owning the IT infrastructure, the compute, the storage, and everything, people are saying, I will not do this capital expenditure. I will just pay for it as I go. So some of you may be using stuff on Amazon Web Services, or you may have heard of this. So we are in what we call Cloud 101, where consumer applications are being used on the cloud. But large enterprises, the Walmarts and the Kmarts and whatever of the world, the HPs of the world, are scared to put their stuff and run them on a cloud thing where God knows what the thing is going to be with security. And the reason the cloud is attractive is you kind of pay for it as you go. So suppose you are a large enterprise, and you figured out your IT organization says, at the end of the month, I need to run payroll for 1 million customers or whatever, and I'll need 100,000 servers. So I buy a large data center with 100,000 servers. And the rest of the month, I'm running at 20% utilization. So the 80,000 servers are just going waste. So that is kind of stupid, right? So instead, if you know your average utilization is 20,000 servers, you acquire 20,000 servers within your enterprise, and then on the 15th of the month, when you need 50,000, you go out and you flex out and you buy those additional things as a service. And you need 100,000, so you flex up and flex down. That is kind of where the world will be headed, the world of hybrid clouds. But you need to do that at tremendous scale and tremendous availability. So at HP Labs, we are working on a project called Sirius, which is a type of cloud. Not much innovation there. An enterprise cloud platform, which is what our vision is. It's like a service provider, right? So on the cloud, I mean, you as a consumer may be wanting to look at some location-based services. I want to find out restaurants and this, etc. So what do? You look for a service from AT&T or from Verizon or from T-Mobile. So we are thinking that we will come up with a platform for the T-Mobiles to use to service the end customers. And there are all kinds of cloud services that are appearing. And through our cloud platform, we can help compose new services. So an example of a service that we have launched at HP Labs is something called MagCloud, which I will talk about. MagCloud allows you to publish magazines, custom magazines for individuals. Today, Newsweek gets printed. Newsweek has 1 million subscribers. So it is profitable to Newsweek. But then suppose you want to have a magazine for people of Indian origin who live in India, who live in the West Coast, who like Chinese food and like cricket. Maybe there's 123 people who would be interested in this. But there may be content that you want to drive, and you want high quality content. And you buy those magazines as you order them. So look at a magazine. There are 4 services that you could potentially put on as a cloud service. There are people who are writing the content, the sports journalists who will write about cricket, the food critics who will write about Chinese food, and so on and so forth, right? So there are these content providers as a service. But then you also need, in a magazine to be successful, you need advertisement. So there's an advertising service who will try to match Lexus ads to whatever if you are quite wealthy, and Hyundai ads if you're not as wealthy, right? Graduate students, there is a future out here. You will transition. But then you need to have subscribers, right? The whole subscribers, I'm going to pay for it and so on. And so you have to collect the money, and all these checks that you write, these 1999 checks to Iowa, those are the subscriber services. And then you have to print these magazines, right? Somebody has to print them on these very fast printers. So there's a print service provider. So imagine that you could have on the cloud a bunch of content providers, a bunch of advertisers, a bunch of print service providers, and a bunch of subscriber services. You could dynamically create a brand new service like MagCloud in a matter of minutes and launch it. That is the kind of power that we are going after. And we are actually demonstrating it with some interesting service that I just mentioned. But the Sirius platform is trying to do it at tremendous scale, massive flexibility, and very, very high reliability. We do work in social computing. The seventh area is that of intelligent infrastructure service. And I want to spend some time here because I saw in talking to researchers here that there is potential collaboration. So HP is a very, very big infrastructure company, IT infrastructure company. And we at HP Labs are looking at the future and say, what's the future of a data center? What's the future of cloud storage and so on? So I will just talk about a few of them, not all of them. So in terms of next generation data centers, today's data centers, they may have maybe 100,000 server CPUs. Each one is a dual core or a quad core, right? But in the future, you will have 1 million CPUs. And instead of 4 cores, you'll have 256 cores, say 1,000 cores. So now you have 1,000 cores times 1 million. You're talking of 1 billion cores that want to talk to each other. You try to connect them through electronics. The power consumption will be so high, you will fry the whole system. And the communication bandwidth will be really, really low. So enter photonics. So we are working on technologies to use photonics to connect up systems to systems, chips across boards, within the chip, sort of cores within a chip, multi-cores within a chip. And you can say, big deal. People have used, I know my good friend Vishwanath Mukherjee, who works on the optical networks, and he said, in the telecom space, we have been using photonics for a long, long time. Agreed. But the telecom people, they're working with different economic models. For them, this optoelectronic interconnection at that point, if that thing costs $1,000, it's okay. Because then they will put it through Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and at the other end, they will do the electronic optic interconnection. But if you're trying to do a $1,000 part for every one of these billion cores, now your cost of a system has gone through the window. So you have to come up with a very cheap way of doing these kind of things. So again, I will be corrected by Vishwanath, so maybe I'm wrong, but when you're having a $1,000 system, you can afford to do manual aligning of your light through these optical fibers. But if you want to bring down your price, you have to do completely self-aligned technologies. So yeah, it is still photonics, but photonics applied to the cheap world of data centers and servers. And then we have come up with these optical crossbars where you shine light at one end. It's like a bus, and you can have taps, sort of 8 taps or 16 taps. Just imagine that you are shining light and you want taps of light coming out. And if you put in a mirror, the first mirror will reflect all the light. So you get a very bright light in the first one. And if you want to have a see-through mirror, right, you have to go through part of it going through, and the next one will still go through and make it out. So you have to have these peculiar see-through mirrors that are going through increasing degrees of transmission and reflection, and it has to all work in the photonic world. And that's what we have demonstrated. So there's a lot of stuff internally that is going on in order to make this a reality. And we will coming to a store near you. Paul Congdon is in the audience, so he'll be so upset if I don't talk about networking. So I will talk about networking. And I will butcher it completely. So the vision here is, if you look at the networking world today, I can guarantee if I saw the networking things in UC Davis, you have all kinds of gear. You have stuff from Juniper Networks, from Cisco, hopefully from HP Procore and others. And you're doing all these little things, and these boxes are all closed systems. They don't want to open it up. You cannot program those boxes. So today's networks are very complicated. They're expensive, and it's like a glue of spaghetti that you have made it more and more and more complex as you've added more and more stuff. And now you want to have these very interesting features of end-to-end quality of control, where on the same shared line that I want to have a phone call to Russia, and Mark Hurd is making a phone call to China. Hey, Mark is my boss. His thing should have higher priority. But today's things, you cannot do this end-to-end individualized quality of control choices. You cannot do things like lowering energy costs and so on. So essentially, the idea is that if you could have an open, programmable, wired and wireless platform, things would be wonderful. And things would be wonderful because it will open things up for companies like HP who are trying to go after companies like Cisco. And I hope to God you don't have any Cisco employees here. But it is in Cisco's interest to keep the things closed because they have a completely closed, they have a good market, right, model and so on. What is the incentive for them to make it open? But the whole world of open source and so on, we want people to innovate. We'll open things up and we'll want to innovate and we'll do things that you could not do before. So that is one of the projects that is going on at labs. And we are applying it to networking technology inside data centers. So in a data center, if you use standard router blocks, there are things that people use are called sort of spanning tree algorithms, right? So you have this data center, this processor, and you have a router here, they have another level router, and the connection from here to there goes like this, goes up 2 notches and comes down. And the way these things work are called sort of spanning tree algorithms. But it turns out that today's protocols use a way that it can only do a particular spanning tree, and you're not using a whole bunch of other links. So there's a technology that came up with called SPAIN that allows people to use this path and that path on all other paths in an efficient manner. And you can do these things because you are doing this kind of open programming of the wired networks. Paul, did I butcher it? Good, thank you very much. Next generation scalable storage, and this is kind of the second last one that I will talk about. So many, many years ago, when I used to go on vacation, I took only 24 photographs, came back home and put them on an album. Today I take 1,000 pictures in a week. And you take 10,000, you take another 10,000, then I take YouTube videos and so on, and we are just uploading all kinds of crap, and somebody has to store them, right? So the world is creating more storage, hundreds of petabytes of storage every year. So imagine that you are trying to build a cloud storage system, and people want things on the free, right? When you upload a video to YouTube, you think you're going to pay for it? No. So you want it free. So to give it to you free, YouTube, Google have to make it very, very cheap. So now, here is the problem. We want to create a scalable storage architecture, large scale, 1 exabyte of data across not in one location, across 100 locations in the world. 100 data centers, some in Singapore, some in China, some in Bangalore, some here, etc. 1 exabyte of storage, lots of storage, high scale. Oh, I also want high availability. 99.99% of the time, I want to make sure it doesn't go down. We are all upset when Gmail went down, right? But you really don't care. Gmail, big deal, I can look at it. But if a company's thing went down for 4 hours, that would be serious. And then we want low cost. So you want large scale, high availability, and low cost. Oh, yeah, I can do it. Well, the world knows how to do 2 of these things today. I can do large scale. I'll go to Radio Shack, buy a bunch of disk drives, really cheap, but this thing is going to fail every second. Or I go to these really expensive disk drives from IBM and HP and so on, very high availability, lot of scale, but you are going to pay a bundle. So it's not low cost. So the question is, how can you do these 3 things at the same time? Low cost through scalability and automatic fault tolerance and availability, and high availability and extreme scale. That's an example of a very focused technical thing that the world doesn't know how to do today. Another technology that came out of HP Labs is the area of non-volatile memory and storage, a technology called Memristor. It is an invention that was postulated by Professor Leon Chua at UC Berkeley, one of the UC faculty, more than 30 years ago. But nobody had actually built a Memristor, except last year at HP Labs, Stan Williams and his team demonstrated the first Memristor. It's a resistance with memory. So it's a passive element. I mean, you all know a transistor, like you switch it on and off. That's a 3-terminal element. It's an active device. This is a passive device. You turn off the power, it still remembers. It's either a 1 kilo ohm or 10 kilo ohm. Oh, I remove the power and it remembers it. So that is what a Memristor is. So this has the potential to disrupt the whole DRAM industry, which is a $26 billion business, the $30 billion disk drive industry, and the flash memory industry. So the market is huge. The only little thing is we need to make it technologically viable. So some examples of technology viableness is the following. So we have demonstrated this in a lab. It works. except that when you pass current through it, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it off. A few months ago, you did this 100 cycles and the thing failed. Who wants to buy a DRAM or a flash memory that will fail after 100 reads and writes? No one. So we had to jack it up to 10,000 cycles, to 10 to the power 10 and so on. So there's reliability issues of doing this. So the early memristors had access cycles. They worked, but it took you several microseconds to go through. Who wants a DRAM with microseconds? So essentially, you have proved this in the lab, but to get it into a viable market, you have to make the read times, write times very, very convincing, and increase the yield. And HP is not in the memory business. So what we have done is we have worked on the invention. We have now working with a very well-known memory manufacturer that I cannot name. And they are going to take this technology and take it to market. So this is crazy, Prith. Why on earth? What is the value to HP? The value to HP is when you do this kind of licensing of technology, and we are doing the same thing with our display technology, we will never manufacture displays or never manufacture memories at HP. We buy things. But imagine that this memory manufacturer called M, suppose it's M or S or H, does this technology and is successful, then we use that in our devices. Because it is our technology, they should give it to us cheaper. That's part of the agreement that we have signed with them. So it is going to be cheaper than the competition. And by the way, if Dell wants to use it, go ahead, because we'll get licensing revenue from Dell. Yippee, Dell bought more memristors, fine for us. So we get double money. We get money from Dell and Acers and everybody else. And it is cheaper for us. That's the kind of business advantage for HP doing this. We cannot talk about this. Central nervous system for the earth. Really cool project. Sorry, I have to be back here again. The last one I'll talk about is the work on sustainability. So these data centers that we all have heard about, they use hundreds of megawatts of power. These are real power hogs. So this is not good for the environment, right? All these carbon emissions and energy consumption is bad. So what we are working on at labs is to come up with a data center design which is going to be much lower energy consumption than today, much lower carbon emissions than today. So some of the early work was on what is called dynamic smart cooling. And the idea is as following. So you walk into a data center today, these are you feel so cold, a room, right? It feels cold because these people in the air conditioning, they're just blasting cold air so that little Intel processor, Intel inside will get cool, right? You really don't need to cool the whole room except that part. So at HP Labs, we created a demonstrator where we put in smart sensors to sense the temperature throughout the data center. There were 9,000 data centers in a room this size. And then based on the temperature, we drive the air conditioning tiles, right? This part is cold, this is hot, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And we allow the room temperature to be just like this, feels hot. But the real regions that Intel inside stays cold. So that was a very creative technology. Now we are working on what is called net zero energy data centers, where we'll have multiple energy sources, some from the grid, some from solar, some from fuel cells. And we'll adjust the energy supply. So over a 2-3 year period, you'll have net zero energy consumed from the grid. And there are other things that we can talk about, which I absolutely cannot. I'm really sorry. The one thing I wanted to end with is that I am here to share with you that we are interested in partnering with universities. Last year, we funded 60 universities, and you can look at the list. We funded UC Davis, thank God. We fund a lot of universities in North America, Technion in Israel, Peking University, Tsinghua in China, IITs in India, the world's best universities working with us on these 20 big bets. Thank you very much.
I think we have time for a question or two. Any questions? Yes, Barry.
Hello, Prith.
Hi.
What was the process you used to get to the 20 big bets?
This will require a 10 to 20 minute answer, but the short answer is the following. We used a process of proposals within HP Labs where researchers could propose whatever. And it was a combination of a 15-page NSI proposal and a 10-page business plan for a startup, evaluated by an advisory board which had 1/3 business unit people, 1/3 HP technologists, and 1/3 lab directors. So if you see, the business unit people would do naturally shorter term things, and they would say, oh, I want this short-term product kind of stuff. But they have only 1/3 the votes in the Senate, right? And so then the technologists have to work together. So the technologists would rather solve P equals NP kind of problems, right? They don't care about the business impact. But unless the two of them come together, you will not get majority. So that was by design the process we used.
Where are all those 20 things listed?
They are on the, so all I'm doing is to excite your interest in driving more eyes to our web page. It is all there, www.hpl.hp.com. Do a HP Labs, if you don't remember that, just HP Labs web page, go there. All our 7 international labs, the 20 labs, the 20 projects, everything is out there. In fact, the IRP call specifies within those big bets suggested topics that we are interested in. Unfortunately for this year, the call for proposals came out about a month or so ago, and we used a process by which we invited white papers from academic faculty, and we have done a screening, and we have asked sort of a subset of people to respond to the full proposal. We don't want to waste your time. And I understand that there are some issues about with UC system. Please don't throw eggs at me. We will get it fixed by next year.
One last question. Winston.
HP used to be a company that's innovative in devices, and now what you see is HP for the future as you concentrate on data, you concentrate on business. What is your model for the future?
So HP as a company has actually transformed. We used to be started as an audio oscillator company, then an instrumentation company, then a printer company, then a PC company. Now it's moving up the stack to sort of a software company, services company. The reason is there is higher margin to be made the more you move up the value chain. So we are actually actively moving out of the lower level hardware things because we think the hardware is becoming a commodity. But even though we don't manufacture memories, we don't manufacture processors, we buy processors from Intel and AMD, we think within HP Labs it is important to be completely on top of the technology. The analogy I drive is Boeing makes airplanes. They buy engines from GE and Rolls-Royce, but they need to know about the latest thing about jet engines, otherwise they will not be able to innovate. So HP Labs is trying to keep up with the latest research on the technology aspects with no intention of actually fabricating them and making them. If we create interesting things, we'll license it. So for example, our photonic interconnect work for multi-cores, we're actually sharing this work with both AMD and Intel because we want to get a good price and drive their innovation. So ultimately, we'll use it. But if they use our technology, it'll be cheaper to us, and we'll make $1 for every time you buy an Acer laptop.
Great. One announcement. There's a reception following the seminar in the lobby. And Prith will hang around and entertain a few more questions. And then lastly, we have, on behalf of the college, a couple of gifts for you.
Thank you very much.
Presentation.
Thank you very much.